My mum was the first one in our family to get into the skiing side of things when she was in college. You know, we were lucky enough to live up here when we were kids, so I started skiing around about 2 years of age. Folks were managing hotels up here, and then took the punt in the mid to late 60s to buy or get a block and build their own little hotel on it, which was our family business for 30 years. So, I was fortunate enough to grow up pretty much in the snow. I spent every winter here since I was born. I believe I've been to the snow every year since I was born, so that's a pretty good stat. Yeah, so I grew up skiing here, went to school here. We had not quite as extensive ski programs as they have nowadays in the primary school, but for the day and age they were pretty advanced. I reckon the opportunities we got to ski as kids up here were very similar to European kids. So we'd ski to school, go to school early, finish at 2, get the whole afternoon pretty much every day to go skiing, which I've also been told many times that I made the most of. So I was pretty into it as a kid. We had some structured programs as well for competition and racing and all that kind of stuff, which I enjoyed and got right into. And then I'd actually never skied at another ski resort till I was 13, and I finally went and did a Victorian Championships at Mount Buller, and then sort of started going overseas and started competing. Well, got into the Australian junior team and then climbed up through the ranks. And as far as competition history goes, I was Australian champion from 17 years of age. Didn't go through undefeated, but I went on to different disciplines, so I focused more on the speed disciplines, which we didn't have those events in Australia. So slalom and GS, I won quite a few over the years. And then I raced Europa Cup, or FIS racing and Europa Cup, and finally got into the World Cup level at 19. Well, that was my first World Cup at 19, and I was still racing the technical events, slalom and GS, in those days, but was just making the transition into downhill that sort of season. And from the next season, I pretty much raced World Cup full-time in the speed disciplines. So I did 10 years straight of World Cup, 3 Olympic Games, 6 World Championships, till I was 29, and then retired from Olympic racing. And I was pretty cactus, actually. I was pretty broken physically and financially, so it just cost so much to keep doing it. I had very little financial support from our industry and governing body. And we had a pretty bad car crash in Europe in 1990, and I was physically pretty beat up from that, so I thought it had done me in completely for ski racing, and the first few doctors I saw said, I should actually stop skiing altogether because my back was pretty cactus at the time. But I didn't really want to hear that, so I kept getting different advice and different treatments, and finally zeroed in what the issue was with my back, and it came good. And then a year later I went back into a professional tour in the States, which I did for 4 years. I retired at about 33, which I thought that was pretty good innings. Then I got a call from the East Korea in the States. I'd just started another pro downhill tour that was like sort of semi-masters tour. And they wanted me to come race, or invited me to come and race in that, and it was too good an opportunity not to, and I was feeling pretty good physically, and so I went and did 2 years on that, and then did another 2 years after that on this kind of endurance racing circuit, there was only a couple of races a year, but it kept me working pretty hard, and so you got to ski for 24 hours non-stop in those ones, so a little bit crazy. So that was the end. So at about 36, 37 I made a commitment to myself that if I was still racing the year I was turning 40, that I would quit, go cold turkey and just stop, because the sport's pretty physical and pretty dangerous, and I've had a few friends that have really hurt themselves racing into their early 40s. So I did my last race in 2001, which was 24 hours of Aspen, and walked away pretty happy and healthy, and now I just ski for fun. Well, the first couple of years in primary school here, I think there was eight or 9 kids in the school. The rumour has it, I know how true it is, but if there was less than 6, I think that couldn't be a school day, so we'd sort of rotate on the good days who was going to be sick in the morning. So we'd get to school and there wasn't enough of us for a school day, so they'd cancel school and we'd all just meet up and go skiing. So sounds like a pretty good story.
I love that. That's so good.
Well, I had a business on the mountain with Mark Stephen, actually, who I grew up with, from when I was sort of mid-20s, which was the Falls Creek Photo Service. So I ran that for 16 years. Until 2001. Yeah, the opportunity came up that there'd been an old photo service at Falls through to probably early 80s, and then the guys had given it up, and it was pretty labour intensive, and it was just pre the Minilab era, photo Minilab era. So Dad suggested to Mark and I that we should pick that business up, and because he thought it'd be pretty good. We're both keen amateur photographers, and understood that side of it. So we looked into it, and then saw the Fuji just brought out the Mini Lab, which was this tiny little 1 hour processing film lab. So we combined that with the shop and had the 1 hour processing on the mountain, and did all the on-mountain photography. So I ended up having 15 staff at one stage with 6 or 7 photographers running around, and crew in the shop, and dark room, and video, and all sorts of stuff.
So that means you were developing everyone's photos in this community. So
that's correct.
See everyone.
Well, you have to talk to my mother about that, because she was... They knew exactly what was going on. Yes. Then I started a ski mag with a mate, which is Chill Factor Ski Magazine. So I started that actually as a website in '94, and then went into partnership with the guys from Surfing World magazine, and brought it out as a hard copy in '97. Yeah, wrote for it, helped edit it. Then I sort of focused more on the web side of it the last few years, and Reggae Ellis, who's been a long time editor of Tracks in the early days, and then he, with a few guys, bought Surfing World, and that's how it all came to be. So he rang and said, let's do Chill Factor as a ski mag. So I'm not so involved in the mag anymore. We sold the business to Coastal Watch 3 years ago now, and I came on board with them as one of the Mountain Watch. So I helped develop mountainwatch.com, which is the main snow forecasting media site outside of the resort sites. Falls Creek's put out arguably the best skiers in the country's ever seen, from Malcolm, myself, the Costa brothers, alpine freestyle, cross-country skiers, as far as the absolute elite goes. So we're obviously doing something right here, right from the get-go. I think we had good junior programs, and some good people in there. Mum and Dad, Mum being a phys ed teacher, really understood the necessity of quality coaching, and that was organised through the Lift Company. They got some pretty, and we still do get some really good young talented coaches that come through Australia, from Austria, Switzerland, Canada, Italy, all over the world, and they're young guys and girls that are on the rise, and we get them for 2 or 3 years, maybe 4 years. They come and work in Australia, so the opportunity is there to get our kids really top level coaches and be cutting edge with the technique, and you probably see that with the strength of the local kids right through my era, the Ski in Australia, that we've always had super top-end coaches, for those few months of the year. So I think the race club's certainly a great institution. It supports the village a lot with numbers and financially, because it's just sort of the money end of the sport, I guess you'd say. I ended up being president for 11 years of the race club, and grew it from 30 to 130 kids and programs, and the families go on to buy apartments here in businesses, and kids go on to, very few of them are ever going to end up at elite level, but they'll all end up being great skiers and probably great ski instructors or ski patrols, or just have something they can do, for the rest of their life at a very good level. So in our family, that's probably the main institution that we'd look at and say that's done a lot of good for the village. Outside of Harvey and those other institutions. Not being a big Harvey drinker myself, but I know a lot of people lived that place every Tuesday and Thursday. It's pretty amazing, that bar still holds the record for the most Galliano sold in the world in a couple of hour stint. So they actually had the owners of Galliano come over to see what the hell was going on there, and they were a little bit shocked, and because in their eyes Galliano was quite an upmarket, aperitif sort of drink, and to see these jugs of Harvey Wallbangers going out with people dancing nude on tables, and they're a little bit shocked at the bastardising of their brand, I think. That's part of the fabric of Falls Creek. Yeah, that was big when I was a kid, definitely. That was sort of its heyday. Nonsense weekend, carnival weekend, whatever you want to call it, which is, was always closing weekend, and sometimes there was snow, sometimes there wasn't, but there'd be pretty good opportunities to, as kids, to, get up to some no good, win a few races, and I'd get sponsored to go in the beer race when I was about 13 or 14 and get a couple of slabs of beers for the older guys, and then when I got old enough to win it for myself, it was a pretty good, because I got taken out and sliced my leg open, and I got about 40 or 50 beers from it, and by the time I got back from the medical centre, they were all gone. Mates had taken care of them, so... But no, Carnival weekend was fun. It was just a fun weekend and good way to wrap up the season. So yeah, it's got a great past. Falls has got a fantastic history, and it's great to see that it's being documented. And we've lost a lot of that generation that were really pioneers here, my father included. He died a couple of years ago. Ori, Ziggy, a lot of the crew that were the fabric of Falls Creek and really pioneered it. That's the end of their generations. They're almost gone. So it's good. Lynn's done a great job keeping the history, and because it's more than it's not just a ski resort. It really is a town, Falls Creek, and that's it's got a lot of history and a lot of people that work really hard to get it on the map and keep it going, and it deserves to have a history put down in good fashion.